You step inside your new medieval bedroom and instantly regret it. There is no bed. Not in the sense you know. No mattress, no frame, no soft downy pillow to cradle your weary head. What you have instead is straw, a loose pile of it, strewn unevenly across the dirt floor. Some of it damp, some of it suspiciously warm, and all of it smelling faintly of goat. This is your pallet for the night. A humble nest of dried grass and hopeful denial. You lower yourself carefully, trying not to breathe too deeply. The air is thick, not just with the scent of unwashed humanity, but also with the comforting aroma of mildew, old turnips, and something that might be cheese or feet. You shift. Something shifts back. Was that the straw? Or was it the rat currently contemplating your left shoe? You remind yourself, this is normal. This is how peasants sleep. For most of history. For most people. Dirt floor, straw bedding, zero insulation. Walls made of wattle and daub. Which sounds whimsical until you realize daub is essentially mud and cow dung. Sticky, crumbly, mildly fragrant. You try to adjust your position. A sharp straw stalk finds your lower back with military precision. You wince. You rearrange. The straw rearranges you back. Somewhere nearby, someone coughs. Then someone else coughs in reply. There's a rhythm to it, almost musical. You begin to suspect this is the lullaby of the 1300s. A hen clucks softly from the corner. Yes, that's right. The chickens sleep inside. You'd assumed they had a cozy coop out back. Number, they live with you. Because warmth is precious and poultry is portable insulation. You settle in again, this time more determined. Maybe if you close your eyes and think of modern mattresses, spring-loaded memory foam wonders of engineering, you'll drift off. You don't. Something scurries across your foot. Your eyes snap open. The rat has returned. He looks at you with disdain, as if you have intruded on his sleeping arrangements. You pull the thin woolen blanket tighter around yourself, which, by the way, is more holes than wool, and whisper a silent apology to your immune system. Your back already aches. Your neck has given up, and your skin itches in 12 separate locations, possibly from the straw, possibly from the fleas, possibly from medieval despair. Still, you try to be grateful. This is your bed, your straw, your hovel. You're living the authentic experience, just with significantly less plague. You jolt awake, not from a nightmare, not from the rat this time, but because everyone around you is awake. It's still pitch black outside, no rooster, no dawn, no sense. You glance around the room, still half dreaming. Someone stoking the fire. Someone else is nibbling a crust of something that was probably bread a week ago. Two people are muttering quietly by the hearth, and one woman is whispering a prayer that sounds more like a negotiation. It hits you. This is normal. You've stumbled into what historians call segmented sleep, a bizarre, perfectly medieval habit of breaking the night into two halves. They called it first sleep and second sleep, as if slumber was a play with an intermission, and you, unfortunately, didn't get a program. The first sleep starts soon after sunset, because when candles are expensive and you can't scroll through anything, there's really no point staying up. Around midnight, everyone just wakes up. Like someone rang a celestial bell that said, "All right, stretch your legs. We're halfway through." You sit up groggily on your straw pile, unsure whether to be alarmed or impressed. You're not alone. People are meant to wake up at this hour. It's time to pray, think, snack, or, according to some sources, have a quick marital check-in. Yes, That's right. This was also prime intimacy hour, because nothing says romance like cold dirt, itchy blankets, and 5 chickens watching silently from the corner. You opt out of that particular tradition and instead observe the quiet ritual around you. No one rushes. It's not frantic. It's almost peaceful in a medieval kind of way. An old man hums softly. A young girl counts rosary beads in the dark. A woman adds a log to the fire and stares into the flame like it's telling her secrets. You hear talk of dreams, of bad omens, of the saint someone swears they saw while dozing. You begin to realize that this middle-of-the-night moment, this strange liminal space, is when people thought the veil between worlds thinned. A time of both danger and clarity, of spirits, visions, and midnight reflection. You try to go back to sleep, but your body, now thoroughly confused, refuses. So you lie there, listening to the sounds of gentle rustling, quiet whispers, the occasional thump of someone accidentally stepping on a cat. Eventually, slowly, the room settles again. One by one, bodies recline, voices fade, the fire dims. And now it's time for second sleep, which will hopefully be less itchy, less interrupted, and marginally more horizontal. You close your eyes. The rat, apparently, does too. You wake again. This time, not because someone stepped on a cat, and not because of any medieval spirits wafting through your dreams. No, this time, it's the snoring. Not just one snore. Not even 2. But an entire symphony of nasal trumpeting, chesty rumbling, and the occasional high-pitched whistle that might actually be a person or a goose. You're no longer sure. You sit up, dazed, your blanket barely clinging to your shoulders. You look around. They're all asleep, and all contributing. Welcome to the communal sleeping experience. There are no bedrooms, no doors to close, no privacy. Just one open space, lined with straw or wooden boards, where families, extended, immediate, and sometimes completely unrelated, sleep side by side like sardines in a barrel of body odor. To your left, a child kicks in his sleep. To your right, someone's feet are dangerously close to your face. And directly across from you, a man is snoring with such commitment, you wonder if it's actually an ancient form of Morse code. You try to shift positions. The floor creaks beneath someone. They mumble, turn, and resume their sonic onslaught. It's here that you realize this is the soundtrack of medieval rest. Not crickets, not a babbling brook, but snorts, wheezes, and the kind of nasal turbulence that could startle livestock. And speaking of livestock, one of the chickens stirs. It flaps once, offended by a particularly violent snore, and settles back down on its perch, which you now realize is someone's knee. You attempt to find a pocket of silence. You close your eyes. You breathe. A new sound emerges. Someone is talking in their sleep, loudly, about turnips, possibly accusing someone of stealing them. You begin to miss modern walls, insulation, earplugs, noise machines that play gentle rain instead of angry farmer dreams of vegetable theft. Still, no one else seems to mind. They've lived like this their whole lives, sharing space, sounds, smells. The idea of sleeping alone is not just odd, it's unthinkable, dangerous even. Being surrounded by family, neighbors, and livestock is what keeps you safe. Warm, grounded. You curl back up in your little patch of straw and try to sync your breathing to the rhythms of the room. A chorus of human existence, one exhale at a time. Eventually, miraculously, you begin to drift off again, lulled not by silence, but by the medieval version of a white noise machine. 12 peasants snoring in harmony, a pig gently grunting in the corner, and the soft creak of an old roof above you. Sleep, it seems, is possible, even in a crowd. Just don't expect peace. Morning arrives. Well, technically it's not quite morning. Just the faint grey suggestion of it, creeping through the cracks in the wall. But the rooster has opinions, and apparently, so does everyone else. You sit up, aching. Your spine protests. Your neck feels like it slept in a burlap sack, which, to be fair, it did. You stretch cautiously. Something cracks. Possibly you. Possibly the floor. As you shuffle outside to greet the questionable dawn, you catch a glimpse of the manor house on the hill, the one with real shutters and a roof that doesn't leak when it's merely thinking about raining. And inside that manor is a bed, a real one. Not straw, not a board, not a questionable pile of itchy cloths. A bed, with a frame, with legs, with a feather-stuffed mattress, covered in embroidered linens and flanked by curtains to block out drafts, light and, presumably, peasants. You imagine sinking into it, downy, cloud-like, quiet. No snoring neighbors, no chickens sharing your pillow, just layers of warmth and the sweet, smug comfort of wealthy slumber. But no, you are not the lord of this village. You are you. And your sleeping surface, should you be so lucky, is a wooden bench. Possibly once a table, possibly still a table, or perhaps just the least lumpy section of floor. Some peasants, the lucky ones, might have a simple wooden frame with ropes strung across, supporting a sack of straw. If the ropes are loose, the bed sags. If they're tight, the straw pokes harder. Either way, you're going to have a bad time. Hence the phrase, sleep tight, which you now understand in a deeply personal, mildly resentful way. You pass by a young man rubbing his eyes. He slept sitting up by the hearth, legs crossed, back against the wall. Too many fleas in the straw, he shrugged. You nod like you understand, because you do, intimately. But the nobleman, he likely woke in silence, rolled over into luxury, rang a bell for someone to warm his boots, and yawned into a monogrammed handkerchief. You, meanwhile, are still pulling bits of hay from your hair. The division is clear, not just in how people lived, but in how they rested. For the rich, sleep was privacy, peace and plush surroundings. For the poor, it was surviving the night without hypothermia, or a mouse nesting in your sleeve. You sigh, deeply. Tonight you'll return to your straw, your shared space, your snoring orchestra. But for now, you can dream, wide awake, of a world where your bed has legs, your blanket has dignity, and your mattress isn't also dinner for a family of beetles. You're ready for bed? Or at least as ready as anyone can be when your sleeping surface resembles a haystack flattened by a disappointed cow. You begin the instinctive ritual, removing your tunic, loosening your belt, maybe even airing out your limbs. Nope. Absolutely not. The moment your hand brushes your belt buckle, a sharp voice from across the room stops you, cold. Don't take off your clothes, someone hisses. You'll catch death. You pause, confused, half undressed, half offended. Turns out in the medieval world, sleeping fully clothed wasn't just the norm. It was practically a survival tactic. There's no heating, no insulation. The walls leak wind like a sieve leaks soup. If you take off your clothes, you're not relaxing. You're inviting pneumonia in for a cuddle. You glance around. Everyone is bundled up like they're preparing for a polar expedition. Shirts, tunics, hose, even hats. One man is sleeping in his boots. Another has a woolen scarf wrapped around his entire face, mummy style, with only one eye peeking out. It's not just about the cold. There's practicality involved. Getting dressed in the middle of the night is hard when you can't feel your fingers and your shirt is frozen into the shape of a question mark. And what if there's an emergency? Fire, bandits, wolves, in-laws. You need to be ready. No time to fumble for your trousers while the village is ablaze or a pig has decided to claim your bedding as its new kingdom. You lie down, fully clothed, minus your boots. You're not a monster, and try to get comfortable, which is difficult when your belt is digging into your ribs and your woolen hose itch like betrayal. Your cloak, doubled as a blanket, barely covers your shoulders. Someone offers you their extra sock to use as a pillow. You accept, trying not to question what's inside it, and yet, somehow, despite the itchy linen, the creeping draft, and the growing suspicion that your left foot is starting to freeze, you begin to drift off. Not gracefully, not comfortably, but functionally. This is peasant sleep, not about softness, but survival. You marvel at how deeply embedded this practice is. No pajamas, no changing into something more comfortable. Just layers upon layers of whatever you wore to plow the field, now pulled tighter as you sink into straw. No one undresses, not even for modesty. Because, ironically, there is nothing modest about shivering yourself into unconsciousness. You curl tighter, listening to the familiar chorus of snores and scratches. Tomorrow, you'll wake up in the exact same clothes you wore to bed. You'll just pretend they're fresh. Everyone else will too. Midnight again. You wake with an urge, not the philosophical kind, not a yearning for truth or warm blankets or a better mattress. No, the other kind of urge. You try to ignore it. You shift, you sigh, you try to convince your bladder that it's 1:30-something and comfort is illegal. But the pressure builds. Nature calls. And in medieval times, she doesn't leave voicemail. So you rise, slowly, stiffly, creaking like an old ship. The fire has burned low. The room is dark, really dark. No lamps, no nightlight, no helpful glow from the hallway. Just shadows, and the vague sense that you're being watched by a chicken. You fumble forward, the urge intensifies, and then your foot collides with something solid, ceramic, and unforgiving. Clonk, a wet slosh, a splash, a moment of terrible silence. You have met the enemy, the chamber pot. It was there, as always, tucked at the side of someone's straw bed. Possibly yours. Possibly the communal one. No one labels these things. It is, in theory, a clever solution. When going outside at night means braving wolves, thieves, and frostbite, having a pot nearby saves your life and your toes. In practice, however, it is a landmine of stink, slosh, and deeply personal regret. Someone groans from the shadows. Another person grumbles something about, "Watch where you step." A third coughs, possibly in sympathy, possibly from the fumes. You apologize into the dark. Then you begin the most delicate dance of the medieval night, relieving yourself without tipping the pot, stepping in anything, or waking the entire room. You crouch. You curse gently under your breath. You wonder how you got here, not just physically, but spiritually. In this moment, you would trade 1,000 gold coins for a flushing toilet and a square of toilet paper that wasn't made of moss or yesterday's bread. Eventually, business is done. You slide the pot back, praying no one will knock it again. You wash your hands. Oh wait, you don't. Not really, there's no soap. Just a cold rag and the haunting realization that this is your life now. You return to your bed of straw and shame. You pull the itchy blanket up and pretend it's over. But it's not, because now you're awake. And so is the smell. You roll over and face the wall. You try to sleep, and somewhere in the distance, a chicken softly judges you. You wake up scratching. Again. At first, you think it's just the usual. Itchy wool blanket, prickly straw, a general sense of despair. But this is more targeted, more malicious. You light a candle stub and take a look. And there it is. The true lord of the medieval bedroom, the bedbug. Small, brown, flat, and full of terrible ambition. You stare at it. It stares back. This is no accident. You haven't just been bitten. You've been claimed. Bedbugs are everywhere. Not just in the straw, but in the seams of your tunic, in the cracks of the wood beams, in the tiny folds of the sock you were so kindly offered as a pillow last night. They live here. You are the guest. And this is medieval Europe, where pest control consists of shaking things aggressively and hoping for divine intervention. You can't call an exterminator. You are the exterminator, armed with nothing but fingernails and regret. You try to ignore them. You roll to the other side. Bad idea. Now that side itches too. Someone else in the room mumbles, "Don't scratch." It spreads the welts. Someone else replies, "Too late." Apparently, this is just another normal part of medieval sleep. Rashes, bites, and tiny parasites who dine on you like you're the evening's entertainment. You reach for your blanket, but it's no help. If anything, it seems to encourage them. A cozy rooftop for insect mayhem. You get up and try to shake out your bedding. That is, your pile of straw and a sackcloth you've desperately called a sheet for the past week. A few bugs fall out. Just a few. You don't scream. You're too tired to scream. You lie back down, defeated. It's not about comfort anymore. It's about endurance. You scratch. You flinch. You mentally compose a letter to the Pope, asking if sainthood is available for anyone who manages 8 consecutive minutes of sleep in this situation. You wonder, briefly, how nobles dealt with this. Answer: they had bed curtains. They had lavender sachets. They had servants who could air the bedding, which, let's be honest, meant throwing it out and getting new bedding. You, on the other hand, have firewood dreams and straw that may already be partially alive. Eventually, your body gives up. Exhaustion trumps discomfort. You fall asleep scratching and wake up scratching. And somewhere beneath your shoulder blade, a bedbug whispers, "Welcome back." You're dreaming. Something peaceful, for once. Maybe about modern plumbing, or having a bed that doesn't bite you back. Then, dong! You bolt upright, disoriented. It's dark, cold, and the dream is gone. Dong! Again. It's not thunder. It's not war. It's something worse. Church bells. You count. 1, 2, 3. This isn't some distant echo. It's local, loud, and deeply committed to making sure everyone in the village is just as awake as you are. Welcome to the medieval concept of timekeeping, canonical hours. In this world, people don't check their phones. They don't have clocks by their beds. They have monks who wake at regular intervals to ring bells, pray, and, whether they mean to or not, wake up half the village while they're at it. The bell you just heard? That's probably matins. The first of several nighttime services, because apparently sleep is fine but not nearly as important as being spiritually punctual. You lie back down, trying to calm your heart. Dong! There it is again. It's almost like the bell is mocking you. You think about the monks, dutifully dragging themselves out of warmish beds to chant in cold chapels lit by candle stubs. You feel a flash of empathy. Then another dong, and it's gone. Around you others stir. Some mumble prayers, some grumble curses. A child starts to cry, whether from fear or fatigue. You can't tell. A goat bleats once, then wisely returns to sleep. This isn't the first bell of the night either. Depending on how devout your community is, there could be 7 or 8 bells between dusk and dawn, each one marking a sacred hour, and none of them even slightly concerned with your circadian rhythm. You wonder if anyone has ever tried asking the monks to keep it down. Then you remember this is the 1300s, and the monks are probably the most educated, powerful people within 50 miles. Also, they ring bells for God. You're not going to win that argument. So you lie there, listening. The bell fades. Silence returns, but it's not the comforting kind. It's the kind that reminds you another bell's always just a few hours away. You close your eyes. You whisper a small, very uncanonical prayer. Please let me sleep through the next one. Spoiler, you won't. But for now, the night goes quiet again, except for the snoring and the scratching and the faint whisper of wind through the cracked daub walls, carrying with it the promise of yet another holy dong before dawn. You wake up to something warm. Very warm and moving. You freeze, ironically. Then slowly, carefully, you turn your head and come face to face with a goat. She blinks at you. You blink back. Neither of you seems particularly thrilled about the situation. This, apparently, is normal. Welcome to the co-sleeping arrangement of the medieval peasant household, where roommates might have horns, feathers, or an udder. You see, insulation is a fantasy here. The walls are thin. The wind cuts through the cracks like a knife through oatcake, and your one thin wool blanket has already surrendered. But animals are warm, and warm is survival. So into the house they come. Chickens roost in rafters. Pigs curl up by the hearth. Sheep, if you're lucky enough to own one, nestle into the corners like oversized, slightly judgmental pillows. And goats? Well, apparently they get your feet. You try to adjust your position, but the goat takes that as an invitation to shift closer. She exhales dramatically. You're not sure whether that means contentment or disapproval. You peer around the dark room. In the straw nearby, someone's sharing a blanket with a goose. Another figure is gently scratching behind a pig's ear like it's the most natural thing in the world. Which, honestly, at this point, it is. You begin to see the logic. These animals are more than company. They're warmth, they're security. They're a kind of rustic, slightly smelly insulation. It's a practical solution. In a world where temperatures plunge, firewood is scarce, and your only other option is freezing to death in your sleep. Still, there are downsides. The smell, for one. A potent blend of wet wool, manure, and damp fur now lives permanently in your nostrils. Then there's the noise. Snoring humans were one thing, but livestock snore too, and grunt, and occasionally scream into the night because they had a bad dream or stepped on a mouse. You try to go back to sleep. The goat shifts again. You shift in response. It's an awkward duet. Eventually, you find something resembling comfort. Not comfort exactly. More like shared resignation. This is your flock now. You're one of them. You close your eyes and try not to think about what you just stepped in. Or the fact that somewhere in the corner, a hen is slowly laying an egg onto someone's discarded tunic. You nestle in, warm, cramped, slightly trampled, but alive. Because in the Middle Ages, the phrase, "don't let the bedbugs bite," could just as easily be followed by, "and don't kick the cow while you're at it." Tonight, you feel hopeful. You've survived rats, bedbugs, church bells, and a goat named Gertie who has firmly decided you're her emotional support pillow. But tonight will be different, because tonight you have a blanket, a wool blanket, thick as guilt, heavy as generational trauma, handed down from at least 3 dead relatives. Someone looked at you, shivering like a scallion in the wind, and said, "Take this. It's warm. Warm." You spread it over yourself. It lands like a trap, thick, rough, and musty in a way that feels historic. You breathe slowly, close your eyes, and begin to feel itchy. First your neck, then your back, then both arms. And the miracle is, you haven't even moved. You try not to scratch. You whisper to yourself, "This is wool. This is normal. Everyone sleeps under wool. The ancestors endured. So can I." Then the sweating begins. Wool, you learn, does not regulate temperature. It has 2 settings, frigid and internal oven. Nothing in between. You kick one corner off. A breeze hits your leg. You pull your knees in. You throw the blanket over your head. Now you can't breathe. You fling it off again. The cycle begins anew. Then, suddenly, you hear a groan from the person next to you. They're itchy too. Another voice mutters, "Who took the grey wool blanket?" You look down. It's you, the legendary grey blanket. You're not the first to be trapped beneath it, and you definitely won't be the last. You wonder, why not linen? Why no lining? The answer? Poverty. Wool is the only thing standing between you and the night air, which can, and occasionally does, kill people. It itches, sure, but you're alive, so you pull it back over yourself, curl into a shape that resembles a very anxious hedgehog. You're itchy, you're hot, you're cold, you smell like damp sheep, but you live. And if you try hard enough, really, really hard, you might even get a few minutes of sleep before the church bell dongs through your skull like a backwards good morning. You don't remember falling asleep, but you remember waking up. Because the rooster has opinions and he's screaming them from just outside your head. You sit up, disoriented, itchy, and vaguely furious. The room is already stirring. Someone's tending the fire. Someone else is banging a pot, possibly out of spite. The goat, yes, she's still here, is chewing your blanket. It's morning. Well, not exactly. The sun hasn't risen yet, but that doesn't matter. The village wakes with the light, or more accurately, the promise of it. There are no alarms, no clocks, just the shifting gray in the sky and the relentless crow of a bird you're starting to resent on a spiritual level. You drag yourself upright. Your back sounds like a stick snapping. Someone cheerfully tells you it's a fine hour for starting the day, and you briefly consider throwing your sock pillow at them. This is the medieval sleep rhythm. Simple, brutal, natural. You sleep when it's dark. You wake when it's not. There's no sleeping in unless you're sick or dead. At first, it feels wholesome, the body aligning with nature, the sacred balance of night and day. Then you remember, you didn't sleep well, at all. Between the goat, the rashes, the bells, and the brief but unforgettable moment with the chamber pot, your rest was more of a prolonged struggle between consciousness and despair. Still, the village moves. People are already outside, tending to animals, fetching water, gathering firewood. No one looks particularly refreshed, but no one complains either. They don't expect comfort. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a maintenance task. You rest just enough to not die. You wander outside. The air is sharp and smells like wood smoke, hay, and a bit of last night's turnip stew. The sun finally peeks over the hills. It's beautiful. You'll admit that. golden rays catching on dew-covered grass, birds chirping, your breath forming little clouds. You yawn so hard you dislocate a thought. This is how life flows here. Wake with the sun, sleep with the dark. No midnight scrolling, no late-night emails, no podcasts murmuring in your ears. Just you, the cold earth, and the rising light. You start to feel a little romantic about it, poetic even. Then someone hands you a shovel and points toward the field. Your muscles cry out, your eyelids beg for another hour. But the village rhythm doesn't pause for poetic feelings. It just marches on, sunrise as after sunrise, season after season, until you too become one of the bleary-eyed figures who wake without question, stretch without joy, and dream only of beds that don't scratch back. You're finally asleep, truly, deeply asleep. No goats, no bells, no itching. Well, less itching. Your mind begins to drift. It's peaceful. And then a figure appears. They say something cryptic, like the wheat weeps beneath the second moon, and vanish in a swirl of fog. You jolt awake, gasping, covered in sweat. Someone across the room murmurs, "Bad dream." You nod. They nod back. Could be a sign. You should ask the priest. Welcome to the medieval dreamscape, where every nighttime vision is potentially a warning from heaven or something worse. You try to go back to sleep, but your mind is racing. What did it mean? Why was the moon purple? Was the wheat talking to you? And why did it have your grandmother's face? In the Middle Ages, dreams weren't brushed off as the result of a heavy supper. They were portals. To God, to demons, to truths too big for waking hours. Everyone believes this. Everyone has a theory. The old woman next to you says dreams come from the humors. You've got too much black bile, or not enough phlegm. Something bodily and vaguely disgusting, in other words. The young man insists dreams are visitations, saints, angels, ancestors with unfinished business. He once dreamed of a cow and promptly stopped eating cheese for a month, just to be safe. The local priest, of course, has a different view. Dreams are from God, unless they're not, in which case they're clearly from the devil. Very helpful. But no one ever says it's just your imagination. Because in this world, sleep is serious business. What you dream might tell you when to plant, who to marry, or whether your soul is in mortal danger. Even simple dreams, flying, falling, your teeth crumbling like soft cheese, could be signs of illness, sin, or a message from beyond. You remember your dream again, the strange sky, the whispering wheat, the way you felt, watched. It was probably nothing, or it was everything. You turn over and pull your blanket up. The fire has gone out. The cold creeps back in. Somewhere, someone's muttering in their sleep. You catch the words? Don't open the door. It's behind the door. Comforting. You sigh and close your eyes again. You're not sure if you'll dream. You're not sure you want to. But if you do, and the wheat starts whispering again, maybe this time you'll try to ask it some follow-up questions. Just in case. It's the middle of the night again. You're not awake because of a rat, a bell, or even your bladder this time. No. This time it's because a small foot has just kicked you squarely in the nose. You sit up, startled, and find yourself eye to eye with a toddler. He stares at you blankly, thumb in mouth, as if to say, "Yes, I live here now." And indeed, he does. In medieval homes, children don't sleep in another room, or in a bed with rails, or under a mobile of friendly sheep. They sleep with you, with their parents, siblings, cousins, and, in tonight's case, you, the extremely reluctant honorary uncle. The idea of separate beds for children is frankly, laughable in this world. Cradles exist, yes, but mostly for newborns. And even then, they're often just a glorified wooden box with a bit of hay in it. Once a child can roll over without falling apart, they graduate immediately to the family pile. And so here you are, sleeping in a heap of straw and half-conscious humanity, flanked on one side by a goat and on the other by 3 children under the age of 7. One of them has commandeered your blanket. Another is sleep-talking about cabbages. You try to roll over. The toddler senses your movement and responds with a swift, practiced elbow to the ribs. You try again. This time, the youngest one sighs in his sleep and drools gently onto your shoulder. It's not ideal, but it is normal. Medieval peasants didn't see this as chaotic. They saw it as practical. Children are warm. Children are family. Children can be monitored when they're inches from your face instead of in another room with wolves outside and no baby monitor. And, let's face it, the family bed is also the family everything. Sleeping space, sick bay, cuddle corner, and, occasionally, the unfortunate backdrop for marital activities, timed around the children's deepest sleep, or their temporary relocation to the goat area. You look around the room. Another family is similarly tangled. A mother wrapped around 2 toddlers like a human pretzel. A father gently holding a child who's drooling into his beard. No one complains. It's just how nights go. You lie back and attempt to reclaim an inch of straw. Just one. The toddler rolls over and mumbles something, then throws an arm across your face. You sigh. This is your life now. Warm, cramped, slightly sticky. You could try moving him, but what's the point? In a few hours, he'll be awake, cheerful, and ready to chase chickens with one shoe on. You close your eyes and try to find sleep between the elbow in your armpit and the goat nudging your feet. Because in the Middle Ages, bedtime wasn't your time. It was everyone's time, all at once, in the same room, under the same itchy blanket. And if you're lucky, really lucky, you might get 3 square feet to yourself. But probably not. You're finally drifting off again. The toddler has rolled away. The goat is snoring gently. Even the chickens are quiet. For now. And then, someone starts coughing, violently, wetly, alarmingly. You sit up. Everyone else does too. Even the fire seems to flicker with concern. The sound cuts through the dark like a warning bell. Not just of discomfort, but of something more ominous. Because in the Middle Ages, a cough at night isn't just a cough. It might be the plague, consumption, or a sign that your time on this muddy earth is about to expire. Someone stirs the fire. Someone else mutters a prayer. A third person disappears briefly and returns with a clove of garlic. They place it gently beside the sick man's head. You stare at it. Apparently, that's step 1. You watch as a few more household members join the ritual. One ties a woolen string around the man's wrist. Another hangs a pouch of dried herbs from the rafter above his head. Someone whispers, "Don't let him sleep facing west." You're pretty sure that last one came from the goat. The sick man groans. Someone dabs his forehead with vinegar. Someone else suggests a poultice made from crushed leeks and blessed lard. You're not sure if any of it is helping, but everyone believes it is. Welcome to the world of medieval sleepy superstitions. Because here, illness and sleep are tangled. The wrong dream, the wrong breeze, the wrong moon phase, and suddenly you're coughing up your sins at 2 a.m. with a garlic bulb as your only defense. People sleep with charms under their pillows. Iron nails at the foot of the bed. One man swears by placing bread crust on his chest to absorb the death. Another swears that if you dream of fish, it means you'll have boils by Thursday. You begin to understand. Sleep is not a peaceful retreat. this battlefield, between health and harm, between superstition and science, or what passed for science back then, between your need for rest and the ever-present possibility that tonight might be your last nap. Eventually, the coughing slows. Someone pours a sip of ale into the sick man's mouth and crosses themselves. The garlic remains. You try to lie back down, but now you're thinking about your own chest, your own dreams, that weird twinge in your throat, that time earlier when you saw a cat sneeze and no one acknowledged it. You pull the blanket up over your face, and then immediately regret it, because it smells like goat. You settle back into your straw, wishing, perhaps for the first time, that you had a few cloves of garlic of your own, just in case. Because in the Middle Ages, the line between a normal night and your last night was about as thin as the air in your shared bedroom. The rooster crows. Again, and somehow, despite everything, the itching, the livestock, the coughing, the garlic, you've survived the night. Congratulations. You wake up stiff, sore, and smelling faintly of goat and fear. Your blanket has vanished, presumably claimed by a child in the night. Your back feels like it slept on a question mark. One of your feet is still warm, which is suspicious. But you're alive. And for a brief, flickering moment, you think the worst is behind you. You're wrong. Because in the medieval world, waking up isn't the end of the struggle. It's the start of a brand new one. Someone's already up, tossing logs onto the fire like they don't resent existence. Another is outside fetching water from a well that might also be a portal to pneumonia. A third hands you a wooden cup of something vaguely warm and calls it breakfast. It tastes like sadness. You stretch. Something pops. Possibly your hip. Possibly the goat. Then comes the checklist. Did you survive the night without frostbite? Yes. Did the baby next to you wet your half of the straw? Also yes. Did the chamber pot overflow? You don't want to talk about it. You sit up fully, which takes time. No one in the room looks refreshed. Everyone looks like they just crawled out of a battlefield covered in wool and questionable liquids. This, you realize, is just normal. You glance toward the small, broken window. Outside, the day has already begun. There are fields to plow, animals to feed, mud to walk through, mud to accidentally eat, and absolutely zero coffee. Someone hands you a crust of bread that may have existed in a previous century. You chew, it resists. Someone else is trying to scrape something off their only shirt using an old knife and strong language. You envy modernity with a passion you didn't know you had. And yet, no one complains, because no one expects better. In this life, surviving the night is victory enough. If your straw bed didn't catch fire, if the spirits didn't whisper in your ear, and if the goat didn't crush your ribs entirely, you win. You sigh and rise fully, aching but determined. Because now begins the part where you toil from sunup to sundown just to survive another freezing, snoring, itchy, garlic-scented night. And repeat, every day, forever. Sleep, you realize, wasn't the hard part. This is. You lie in the dark, not quite asleep, not quite awake. Somewhere in the hazy middle where your face is cold, but your feet are sweating. Someone is breathing loudly to your left. Someone else is probably dead to your right, but you won't check until morning. This is the dangerous part of the night. You see, in the Middle Ages, people didn't just sleep. They survived sleep. Because night wasn't just dark and cold. It was mysterious, spiritual, and occasionally deadly. And if you made the mistake of relaxing too deeply, you might just wake up on the wrong side of the afterlife. Everyone knows someone who just never woke up. they'll tell you it was natural. But secretly, they're thinking, the night spirits took him. So naturally, peasants had rules. Very weird rule. Rule number 1, don't sleep with your head facing north. That's where the dead sleep. Don't ask how they know. Rule number 2, if someone sneezes in their sleep, pray immediately. That could be a soul trying to escape. Rule number 3, never, never fall asleep without a charm nearby. A twig from a yew tree, a pouch of rosemary, a chicken feather tied with red thread. All perfectly normal bedroom items. You try not to move too much, just in case you disturb the spirit world. The baby next to you makes a strange gurgling sound. You gently poke it. It grunts, then continues sleeping. Good. Your aunt snores. She always snores. She also insists on sleeping with half a boiled onion under her pillow to ward off shadow sickness. No one questions it anymore. You roll over, slowly. The blanket shifts with you, revealing your shoulder to the frigid air. You instantly regret everything, but worse than the cold is the creeping sense of dread that seems to rise from the floorboard. Some say it's just the chill. Others say it's the spirits of unfinished business. Most likely it's just the mice fighting again under the straw. Someone farts. The dread passes. You close your eyes, but your thoughts keep going, because sleep in the Middle Ages isn't restful. It's just another part of the fight to exist. Is your heart beating too slow? Did the cursed bread you ate 3 days ago finally catch up with you? Did you forget to say the nighttime charm your grandmother made up when she lost half her goats? You try to calm your thoughts. You focus on the sound of the fire dying down, on the breathing of the others, on the familiar squeak of the rat in the corner. You may fall asleep soon, or you may be dragged away by forest spirits for forgetting to sprinkle salt at the threshold. It's a toss-up, really. But that's just another ordinary night in a medieval peasant household. At long last, you drift off. Sort of. You sink into that odd, shivery, semi-dreaming state where your brain tries to convince you that you're both on fire and also drowning in turnips. Someone coughs nearby. You ignore it. Someone else shifts and steals half your blanket. You curse them silently. And then, sleep. Real, glorious, medieval sleep. But it doesn't last. Because this isn't the modern world where people pass out for 8 hours and wake up with back pain and existential dread. This is the Middle Ages. And here, sleep is divided into 2 parts. They call them first sleep and second sleep. And in between? Well, that was your bonus hour of strangeness. You wake up somewhere around midnight. Not fully, but just enough. You're not alone. Most of the house is half awake too, not alarmed, just active. Some people roll over and mumble prayers. Some sit up and stoke the fire. One person stares blankly at the ceiling and contemplates the sins of their neighbors. Your cousin gets up and starts sharpening a sickle, completely normal. This in-between time, the hour or 2 between first and second sleep, was seen as useful, sacred even. A time for thought, reflection, maybe even a little light conversation, or, if you're feeling particularly spicy, some marital business. Yes, this was prime time for peasant romance. Not exactly roses and candlelight. More like itchy wool, straw in places you don't want straw, and a faint odor of pickled cabbage in the air. But it worked. Some people prayed. Some made plans. Some got up and walked around the village like haunted scarecrows. You stay put, because getting up sounds like work, and your toes have only just thawed. Someone whispers about a dream they had. Someone else says they heard a voice outside the window. You pretend to be asleep. Eventually, the room settles again. The fire dims. The sighing, coughing, and mumbling fades back into heavy breathing and the occasional snore. And just like that, second sleep begins. You drift back down. Slower this time. Deeper. Warmer. And slightly more confused. Because in this world, even sleep has intermissions. You're in your second sleep now. The deep part. The part where dreams come. Not the gentle, floaty kind you might expect. Number, this is the Middle Ages. Here, dreams don't come to comfort you. They come to warn you, or scare you, or possibly possess you. Because to your average medieval peasant, a dream isn't just your brain sorting out the day's events. It's a message. Maybe divine, maybe demonic, maybe dairy-related. You dream of falling into a pit filled with chickens wearing tiny crowns. You wake up in a sweat. Your aunt tells you this means someone in the village is hiding a secret, possibly involving chickens, or royalty, or both. You dream of fire and screaming goats. Your cousin insists you've been cursed. You suspect the cursed part was eating that sour cheese before bed. The thing is, people back then didn't have Freud. They didn't have dream dictionaries with symbols and meanings printed in neat columns. What they did have was priests who could tell you if your dream was a warning from God. Wise women who would sell you dream charms, and neighbors who would absolutely gossip about your dreams like they were royal proclamations. You once confessed a dream to your friend about flying. He asked if your soul had possibly left your body. You're no longer friends. Your uncle swears he once dreamed of a black dog at the door, and the next morning the pig died. Now, any time someone dreams of a dog, everyone in the house just quietly says goodbye to the pig. Some dreams were omens, some were temptations, and some were just the result of sleeping too close to Aunt Margot's onion-scented pillow. But no matter what, you never ignored them. Because ignoring a dream could mean ignoring a heaven-sent vision. Or worse, missing the signs that you'd been marked by night demons. Yes, that was a thing. There were entire guides written by monks. Monks, telling you which dreams were trustworthy and which ones meant the devil was trying to get inside your head via your subconscious. You are just trying to sleep. But instead, you wake up wondering whether the image of a talking turnip in your dream means a storm is coming. You need to fast, or you're destined to be a prophet. Probably just indigestion. You roll over and mutter a quick prayer just to be safe. You also promise to skip the moldy cheese next time. Maybe. And then, finally, you let the dreams take you again, hoping they don't come with talking livestock or glowing eyes in the dark. You're sleeping. Deep, dreamless, second sleep kind of sleep. You've forgotten the turnip dreams, the ominous chickens, the drafty straw pile, even Aunt Margot's sleep mumbling. But then, bam, you're awake. Something moved, something shifted, something snorted. Welcome to 2 a.m. in the 1300s. Here are just a few of the delightful things that could, and often did, jolt a medieval peasant from sleep. 1. The Rat Olympics. You hear it again, the soft scritch-scratch. The sound of tiny claws across beams, beds, maybe even your toes. You freeze, you pray, you tuck your blanket around you like a sad human sausage roll. Is it running across your chest? Probably. Do you scream? Number, you just endure. Because screaming would wake the baby. And if the baby wakes up, everyone wakes up, including the goat. And that's a chain reaction you don't survive. 2. That one rooster who's always early. There's always one. He's loud, he's wrong, and he's proud of it. While all the other roosters wait for the sun, this guy, he's just winging it. You'd wring his neck, but he belongs to the reeve's cousin, and you've already been warned twice. So instead, you lie there, listening, wishing, plotting. 3. The wind that sounds like a woman, crying. You know it's the wind. Of course you do, but at 2 a.m. in the dark, after dreaming of ghost pigs and turnips with teeth, really does sound like someone weeping just outside the door. You stare at the ceiling. You whisper a protection prayer. You roll over and accidentally make eye contact with your cousin, who is also awake and doing the exact same thing. Neither of you say a word. 4. Animals doing whatever it is. Animals do. The goat has indigestion. Again. She groans. Then she headbutts the barn wall. Then she poops in the water bucket. Again. You hear your father mutter something about turning her into soup in the morning. He says that every night. The goat lives on. The chickens, meanwhile, have entered what seems to be a political debate. 5. Someone is always sick. A cough, a groan, a snore that turns into a choke, which turns into everyone panicking for 3 seconds before realizing it's just old Wilma swallowing wrong in her sleep. Still, no one relaxes for a while. You all just lie there, listening, breathing, waiting for the next noise. Eventually, things quiet again. The wind moves on. The goat settles. The rooster gives up. The rats take 5. You drift back towards sleep, heart racing just a little. Because you know the truth. No one sleeps through the night in the Middle Ages. You sleep between the chaos, and even that is a luxury. You're curled up on your straw pallet, or maybe someone else's. It's hard to tell in the dark. Your legs are tangled with at least 2 other people. One might be a cousin, one might be a stranger. You'll ask in the morning. Or not, because this is how people slept. Not alone, not even as a couple, but in a heap. A warm, slightly wheezing, suspiciously damp heap. Warmth before modesty. Forget personal space. Forget boundaries. Forget, I need a moment to myself. It's the 1300s, it's freezing, and firewood is scarce. The human body, foul-smelling and oddly shaped as it may be, is your most reliable heat source. And so, you pile. Siblings, grandparents, cousins, neighbors passing through. Occasionally a visiting priest. Once, very awkwardly, a tax collector. The rule is simple. If you're not dangerous and you're warm, you're welcome. And sometimes, even animals. Yes, the rumors are true. You've probably shared a bed with a goat. Maybe not a full-grown one. Maybe just a kid. Or a sickly hen. Or a cat with one eye who hisses in Latin. Animals were brought inside for warmth, protection, and because the barn roof leaks. They might not be in the bed exactly, but they're close. Too close. And once you've been woken by a piglet chewing on your hair, you never forget it. Privacy. What privacy? There's no bedroom door. There is a curtain if you're lucky. And even then, it's mostly symbolic. Conversations happen, arguments happen, bodily noises absolutely happen. And yes, that includes nighttime marital activities, conducted quietly under a blanket while 3 people pretend to be asleep inches away. No one ever talks about it. But everyone knows. Secrets don't sleep. When everyone sleeps together, everyone hears everything. That whispered conversation your uncle had with the neighbor's daughter, we thought it was quiet. You were awake. So was your aunt. By morning, everyone knows. Someone farted and blamed it on the baby. Nice try. The baby hasn't had solid food in 2 days. Nice try. You shift in the straw. Sigh. trying to find the warmest part of the pile again. Someone's foot is on your thigh. Your arm is under someone's head. There's a chicken at your hip. You don't complain, because as strange and uncomfortable as it is, this is what keeps you alive. The warmth, the togetherness, even if you wake up stuck to your brother's elbow and smelling like goat. At least you wake up. And in the Middle Ages, that's not nothing. It's the middle of the night. Again, you've just gotten comfortable. You finally found that sweet spot in the straw where no one's elbow is in your face, and the goat has stopped snoring, and then it hits you, that ancient, primal, inconvenient urge. You need to pee. You lie there, eyes wide in the dark, bargaining with your bladder. Maybe if you ignore it, it'll go away. Maybe if you roll slightly left and think about something dry. Nope, it's happening. You sigh the sigh of someone who has been here before. Because in the Middle Ages, the phrase midnight bathroom break didn't involve soft lights or warm tile floors. It meant one thing: the chamber pot. The pot of shame. The chamber pot isn't fancy. It's not scented. It's a heavy, cold, poorly balanced clay bowl that lives somewhere near the wall, often half full, always slightly ominous. And tonight, like every night, it's way too far away. You try to get up quietly. You fail. Someone grumbles, someone else shifts. The baby starts to stir. You freeze. A full 3 seconds of silence pass. You exhale, and then you crawl. Because walking means stepping on someone's hair, or someone's chicken. Crawling is safer. More humiliating, but safer. You reach the pot. You do your business. You try not to breathe too deeply. You pray you don't knock it over, because if you do, congratulations. The entire room now hates you and smells like disappointment. The bucket option, aka worse. If you're sleeping in a home without a chamber pot, and many peasants are, your only other option is the slop bucket. It's a communal thing, a horrifying thing. It holds everything. Pee, water from washing feet, bits of gruel, possibly a dead insect or two. You don't look into it. You just aim and hope. Some people skip the bucket altogether and go outside. In winter, in the dark, through a door that might be stuck, past a yard filled with angry geese, and into a corner of the garden that everyone pretends isn't the spot. You tried that once. You still have the scar from the goose. The morning after come dawn, someone, usually the youngest or the newest in the household, has to empty the pot across the yard into the ditch while holding their breath and regretting their life choices. It's a rite of passage. You did it once at age 6. You cried. Now you tiptoe back to bed. You shuffle into your spot. You lie still, hoping to fall asleep before the rooster starts again. You're cold, slightly ashamed, and your nose won't forget the smell anytime soon. But at least you didn't spill it. Small victories. Morning comes early. Not gradually, not gently, but all at once, like being slapped in the face with a cold, wet burlap sack. First comes the rooster, naturally. You thought maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't crow today. You were wrong. Then the goats, then the baby. Then someone opens the front door with a creak that sounds like a dying walrus. Then someone drops a wooden bucket directly onto the packed earth floor. And then, of course, the fire needs relighting. So now someone is stomping around, muttering about wet kindling and who forgot to collect dry twigs while banging 2 pieces of flint together like an angry caveman reenactor. You open your eyes. You immediately regret it. Everything hurts and you're cold, your back? A battlefield. Your knees? Solid blocks of medieval arthritis. Your neck? bent at a 47-degree angle thanks to the child who somehow ended up sleeping on your chest like a large, drooling potato. You sit up, the blanket falls off. The air hits you like a vengeful ghost. You immediately want to lie back down and never get up again. But you can't, because rest is over. The morning routine, or lack thereof. There's no washing your face in a porcelain basin with lavender soap. No brushing your teeth while gazing into a mirror and questioning your life choices. There's cold water in a wooden bucket. That's it. You splash some on your face. It feels like being smacked with a winter cloud. You're now awake, but emotionally damaged. To clean your teeth, you might chew on a stick, or rub them with ashes, or, if you're truly ambitious, wipe them with a rag you hope isn't also used for cleaning goat hooves. You check your feet. One is in a sock, the other is in someone else's sock. You accept this. Time to work. Now immediately, always. Breakfast? Maybe. Later. First, there are animals to feed, or bread to knead, or wood to chop, or mud to haul. Someone's already shouting from outside. Up! The Lord's pigs broke through the fence again. You groan. You're 90% sure this happened yesterday, too. Maybe every day. You pull on your tunic. It's still damp from yesterday's sweat. You put on your shoes. One is cracked. The other might be housing a spider. You put it on anyway. Your cousin is already outside, yelling at the pigs in a tone that suggests he lost the will to live sometime last harvest. You take a deep breath of fresh, misty, manure-scented air. You've survived another night. You're cold. You're tired. And the day has only just begun. But you're alive. And in the Middle Ages, that's more than enough. Tonight, you feel hopeful, which, as we've established, is dangerous. You've survived a lot. Rats, bedbugs, church bells at ungodly hours, and a goat named Gertie who has decided you are her nightly emotional support human. You've endured co-sleeping with 6 people and 1 angry chicken, the mysterious nighttime sneezing rituals, and that awful moment between first and second sleep, where you start to question your choices in life. But tonight, things are different. Because tonight, you have a blanket, a real one, not just some old cloak or hay tucked under a potato sack, or 3 dead leaves you found by the hearth. No. Someone looked at your shivering, quivering, nearly frozen form and handed you a miracle. Here, take the grey wool one. It's warm. You almost cried. You spread it across your body with reverence, like laying holy relics over your weary soul. It lands on you with a satisfying weight, like being gently smothered by history. Thick, coarse, smelling faintly of sheep, mildew, and at least 3 generations of peasant regret. You close your eyes. You breathe. You wait for the warmth to arrive, and then you itch. First, it's your collarbone, then your lower back, then, somehow, both arms, at once, even though you haven't moved a muscle. You whisper to yourself, this is fine. This is wool. People used wool. People survived. Be strong. You last another 20 seconds. Then you start to sweat. Because wool, at least this ancient peasant-grade wool, doesn't believe in moderation. It does not warm you gently. It envelops you like an aggressive oven mitt, then seals in your body heat like a boiled turnip in a sack. You throw off the corner. A gust of cold air assaults your leg. You pull your knees in. You yank the blanket over your face. Now you can't breathe. You fling it away. Now you're freezing. Cycle repeats. This continues for what feels like 3 eternities. You've shifted the blanket in every possible configuration. Half on, half off, legs out, arms in, blanket tent. Blanket cocoon, one arm sacrificed to the cold gods. Nothing works. The itch comes back. You scratch your ankle and disturb the straw. Someone groans. Another person coughs. Gertie, the goat, stirs at your feet. Then a quiet voice from the darkness hisses. Who took the grey wool blanket? Silence. You don't answer, because you know. Everyone knows. You have it. The grey one, the one with the legend. The one no one ever wants, but no one ever throws away. Passed down like a family curse, heavy as sin, itchy as betrayal, yet somehow always warm. You wonder aloud, why didn't anyone sew in a lining? A sleepy voice replies, because linen is for rich people. Fair, you settle back in. The blanket presses down like the weight of feudal taxes. You curl into a fetal position, or rather, a kind of medieval fetal porcupine hybrid, trying to expose as little skin as possible while still maintaining circulation. You imagine your ancestors doing the same. All of them itchy, all of them sweating and shivering at once, all of them whispering, "At least it's warm." You can't deny it. It is warm, but warm like a swamp, like a fever, like someone boiled a sheep and then wrapped it around your soul. Meanwhile, around you, someone sneezes violently and knocks their candle stub off the crate. Someone else whispers a dream about floating fish with human faces. Your brother scratches his own arm and mutters, "Grey wool again." You feel less alone. Even if the blanket is trying to kill you, even if you're only half asleep, half cooked, even if you smell like a wet barn, you drift into a weird kind of trance. Your limbs are numb, your brain is buzzing, your spine has accepted its fate, and just as you think you might finally fall into a proper second sleep, dong, the church bell. Of course, because it's morning. Somehow, already, you sit up, a hair matted to one side, straw stuck to your cheek, wrapped in a giant itchy burrito of inherited wool and existential pain. You survived. Barely. And tonight, when someone else asks for a blanket, you'll smile sweetly and hand them the grey one.